Hey guys, first Regardsman here, and I'll be talking about every single class in Space Marine 2 patch 9.0 and tier listing them based on their performance in true solo operations. Now, a true solo in Space Marine 2 is just a normal solo, except you turn off the bots, so you have no help, you are the only Marine fighting against all the Tyranids or Thousand Suns, and is currently the hardest content for both hard siege and operations, though today this list will primarily be focusing around the performance on operations. So first up we have the Assault class. Now, the Assault class did get some buffs in patch 9.0. He is quite good in true solo, mainly because of his ability to nuke enemy extremists, which is actually very important because boss fights currently in absolute difficulty, if you're by yourself, they can really frame trap you. Things like Lictors, Raveners, even melee Terminators on top of Hellbrutes or Carnifex, very, very difficult to deal with, and occasionally those get nuked down. His damage reduction is not incredible, but his ability to move around and do serious Nova damage is, and he also has incredible armor restore with things like armor reinforcement, and his gun strikes are quite powerful, and mobility really is king on him. I would say he's around B tier. The perk defense mechanism, which is basically the advanced conditioning 50% slower CHP fade from the Bulwark class that was added to him in patch 9.0, really helped his survivability versus chaos especially, and he does have access to the Power Fist, and the Power Fist is an incredibly overpowered weapon currently, and because of that, he's able to nuke bosses significantly better than even things like the Vanguard, because Vanguard doesn't have Power Fist, so this guy's boss damage is just way above the Vanguard class, and overall his Nova damage is pretty exceptional. His mobility really carries him. The only downside is to get this survivability with stuff like defense mechanism, you do kind of have to give up stuff like consecutive execution, which is his equipment recharge for stuff like melta bombs, which does suck. So I'd say he's around here right now. So the next class we have is the Bulwark class. Now, Bulwark is probably the easiest class to solo with. He has access to self-healing with stuff like Invigorating Icon. He has a shield to block the most devastating range attack from the Carnifex currently, which is the artillery. In patch 9.0, Carnifex artillery has like a pinpoint accuracy, very dangerous to frame trap you with, and he can just block it outright. He also has the most damage reduction of any class in the entire game, and a 30% increased base starting HP. So very, very powerful class in general. Bulwark really is kind of busted, and he also, like the Assault, has access to the Power Fist, and the Power Fist is just absurdly powerful on him. Really, nothing can stop a Bulwark with Invigorating Icon and the Block Fist. He has like a 99% clear rate in this game because it's just so easy for him. Like, really, if you build a full meta build on him, you just won't die because he's just that good. I would say there's one class that is better than him, mainly because of what is basically an exploit, but we'll put him in A for now. Like, as far as like base gameplay goes, he probably has the easiest time outside of maybe one other class, which is the Heavy. Now, the Heavy class I think is the overall best class in Space Marine 2 because the Heavy has comparable damage reduction, at least in base, to the Bulwark. He can also get a 30% increase starting HP. He has access to stuff like Conviction for a 25% health damage reduction upon armor break for 10 seconds, just like the Bulwark does, and he also has perks like Encompassing Aegis to give him a 25% range damage reduction. And when you stack that all on top of this class with an Iron Halo to block all ranged attacks on him at points, he is really, really potent for the true solo operations, and fighting bosses with him is quite easy because he just has absurd damage with like half of his weapons, over half, like Heavy Bolter, Heavy Plasma, Multi-Melta. These things just mop pretty much every enemy Absolute could throw at you. The only time his weapons ever fall off would be in like the highest waves of hard siege, but we're not talking about that today. We are talking about true solo operations. And this guy has all the damage, all the survivability, and incredible equipment recharge with stuff like consecutive execution, on top of just being pretty easy to play, and even his melee attack is super potent versus stuff like Hormagaunts. So I'd say he's an easy A tier. Now you may be wondering why I didn't put him in S, but we'll get into that in a second with the Sniper class. But overall, I think as far as like basic gameplay goes, this guy is just the top class alongside Bulwark. They're the two tankiest classes in this game. They both do really good damage. The banner on the Bulwark is very powerful for Horde Clear with Purity of Purpose, and Heavy just kills everything, so kind of hard to beat that. Now, the next class is the Sniper. Sniper is a pretty much broken class currently because of one mechanic, which is the camo cloak cancel. Thanks to a weird perk interaction with stuff like lingering concealment and Emperor's Grace to give him 2 seconds of invulnerability and 2 seconds of cloak after breaking cloak, he can infinitely loop his cloak and stay invulnerable literally the entire game. He also has access to stuff like purification for instantaneously regaining all of his contested health upon entering a cloak, and he's honestly just a very forgiving class to play. Sniper, even if you play him in like a standard way, it's just like easily A tier, but with a camo cloak cancel and his pattern of excellence perk to give him stupid amounts of equipment recharge, like every 30 seconds off of 3 consecutive headshots, or like a 3 consecutive headshots will give you back an equipment after like with a 30-second cooldown. It's a very powerful option for him, and blowing up and melt up bombs every 30 seconds is already OP in itself, but being able to be invulnerable the entire game is just broken, and even without that, his boss damage is kind of absurd, and tactical ambush can give him stupid amounts of melee damage with the block knife, and the cloak is just incredible for breaking contact. I would say he is the only S tier class because nothing really beats being invulnerable the entire game, but as far as standard gameplay goes, I do think these two guys are above him, but if we take that like little camo cloak cancel into account, he's just S because never dying is just the best he could possibly be. Now, the next class we have is the Tactical. Tactical is probably the worst class for true solo right now, not because he lacks boss damage, but it's because he lacks survivability. He has basically no damage reduction in this game. The only damage reduction he has, or like really the only tank perk he has, comes from Fortitude in the Prestige perk tree for a 15% bonus HP. He has literally no mobility at all compared to things like the Grapnel Launcher, Jump Pack, Iron Halo can block ranged attacks, Camo Cloak can just break you out of combat, and Bulwark can block or just plant down banners, but this guy cannot properly remove himself from like dangerous ranged combat at all. If you take a Tactical to like a true solo to fight double Karn effects, he is just harder to play than all these other classes are. He has the damage for sure, but lacking survivability makes his clear rate significantly lower than the others, and he is definitely the hardest class to true solo on currently. And now back in the day, he was way easier because you had a totally broken battle focus perk that would stack all Auspex scan bonuses on it, but these days, that's just not the case. I would say he's honestly below the Assault, and currently I'd say he's C. He really is just the worst class for true solo currently. By no means horrific, because all the classes are in a pretty good spot right now, but he definitely plays as more of a support class than all the other ones. Now, the next class we have, or the final class, is Vanguard. Vanguard has god tier team perks with Inner Fire and Unmatched Zeal. Now, these perks are not as good on your own as they are in a team, but still pretty damn powerful, and the Grapnel Launcher does have a stupid amount of iframes. Though the big problem with Vanguard is his boss damage sucks, his ammo economy sucks, and he's just not that good at Nova damage, and Nova damage is occasionally what you need, especially versus bosses, and he's really carried by things like Zone of Impact and Tactical Prowess, which do like to bug out a ton. Though despite that, I would say he is around the same level as Assault currently for true solo, though his damage is definitely worse. He's like, these guys do a pretty good job. They're good at different things. He can heal himself, which is obviously going to make things a little more forgiving. But in true solo, it is quite easy to kind of manipulate the AI director to give you what you want from like med sim boxes and stuff like that. So even though you may not need stims on the Vanguard, if you just take something like Inner Fire, you might have an easier time because finding stims by yourself is not very hard. Though I will mention that on absolute difficulty, if you do decide to true solo, you will not find as many stims at the actual ammo crates. That's like a weird interaction of being solo, but they don't actually spawn any med stims at ammo crates with like one person, so you should keep that in mind, and his healing can come into effect with that. But overall, lacking Nova damage compared to the Assault is pretty terrible for him, and honestly, the Vanguard's been a pretty overrated class for a long time, and maybe because he's just easy to play, but he's really not that strong, though he's still better than the Tactical is for true solo currently, because mobility and damage reduction he definitely has. Because any class with a Conviction perk, even without like Supreme Nova damage, is just going to be pretty good for true soloing. And that's pretty much all there is to this list. A top tier is Sniper, and then A tier would be our Heavy class and Bulwark. Then we have Assault and Vanguard, and then Tactical. I think that's pretty standard. I don't think anyone's going to argue like Vanguard and Assault are over Heavy or Bulwark. And Sniper being invulnerable the entire game and nuking bosses and literally never dying and never needing stims if you properly input with him, I mean, it doesn't really get better than that. That's pretty much all there is to this, guys. Let me know what you think in the comments below. I don't know how many people actually play the true solo in this game, but if you do, let me know what your experiences are. And as always, thank you guys for watching. Take it easy. Bye.